All right, well, here we are on another beautiful day on the farm, and unlike previous days, today we actually have some wind. One of the things I liked about this piece of property out here is every time I came out here there was always wind, except the last few times that I've been out here working, no wind. But this time we got wind. It's a nice breeze. It'll help to keep us cool. It's going to be very hot today, 100 and something out. I don't know. I've stopped looking. It's depressing. So too hot, but at least we'll have a breeze for our project today, which of course is the same thing we're going to be doing every day for quite a while, and that is building fence. So we have a bunch of fence to build. What we're going to do today, we're going to try to work on getting posts in. We'll get as far as we can, putting about 1,000 feet of fence down this line. And we got to get braces in. We got an H and some ends up here. We're going to have a brace section in the middle that is going to be an NHN. All those braces are going to be put up and put together with the bullet fence system, so you'll get to see that. And what else? Yeah, whole bunch of fun. Whole bunch of using the post driver, putting posts in the ground. We're going to use that for both our brace posts and corner posts, as well as the T-posts that we'll put in going down. So should be a good time. But first, we're going to walk down to the other end, and we're going to take a look at my piece of test fence. I did a short section, probably 150 feet or so of fence, just because I wanted to test out all the pieces of this. And we'll take a look at that. We'll take a look at what I did right, what I did wrong, and what I'm going to correct when I do this section, because nothing is ever perfect the first time. But it will be the second time, or possibly the third, or maybe never. But that's okay. We'll survive. All right, and here it is. The piece of fence that I made complete. Well, complete is a relative term, and in my case, complete very often is a term for I'm done fiddling with it. I've had enough of this particular piece of fence. So in my case, it's complete. Could it be better? Absolutely. Should it be better? Maybe. Will the rest of it be better? Oh yes, the next part of the fence will be better. Is it good enough? Yeah. It has to keep cows in a field. It doesn't have to get a space shuttle into space, so I think it'll be just fine. But we'll take a look. I want to show you some of the things I'm going to change, some of the things I want to do differently as I do the rest of it. So it's a lot of fun. Always something to learn out here. So first of all, let's talk about these braces. So these are, of course, steel post braces. This is what's called an HN. And that's meant to be a long section that's going to have about a 500-foot section of barbed wire going that way. And then this way, of course, it's only, what is it, 120 feet or something like that. So it's a pretty short piece. Part of the reason I picked it to be like my starter test piece was that it is nice and short. And so since it's so nice and short, we only did an end brace at the end. But fear not, that end brace is plenty strong in and of itself. I actually, you can see, where is it? This top piece of wire here, you can see I actually spliced. And the reason that I spliced that is because when I hooked that piece of wire to that post at the end and went to unroll it by pulling on the roller, I have a unroller for the tractor. We'll show that when we start doing some barbed wire. But yeah, that wire unroller bound, and as a result it pulled on the wire, and the brace at the corner held up just fine, but the wire broke. So if it's strong enough to break wire, I'm perfectly happy with it. I think that'll be fine. So as you can see, we're doing a typical 5-strand barbed wire fence. Did I get the wire perfectly straight? No, you can see down there, of course, where I didn't. But again, it's okay. It has to hold cows in, not get a space shuttle into space or something like that. So things I did right, the last couple pieces of wire you can see as we get down toward the bottom are definitely tighter than the upper two. The upper two are really too loose. I'll need to come in later with some tensioners and add some tension to those upper two. But the rest of them worked out okay. I got better at using the goldenrod to tighten them on the ends. So we'll look at that a little bit later. The other thing, I had some, instead of using pieces of smaller gauge high tensile for holding the wire to the steel posts like this, I had some extra chunks of wire at the end of this, so I just cut them and pulled them and wound them around to hold the wire against the metal posts. It's fine, it'll hold again. This has to hold cattle in, and that's all. So what I wanted to also show you is, you can see at this corner, one of the things I like doing with this fencing system, you'll see, obviously this isn't welded. So this is using that, what's called a bullet fence system. And one of the things I like to do, because these are held on with just these compression fittings at the joints, I like to always put the fitting that goes in the end down to the ground, I like to always put that on the bottom, so that if that ever pushes up, it's pushing up on both itself and the collar above it for the H-brace going that way. And that's part of the reason why I like to finish the whole corner at once, instead of doing like just this half of the corner and then doing the fence and then doing the other half of the corner, because it's just a little bit nicer. It's all done at once. The other thing, of course, is once this barbed wire is on the end like this, you can't really slide these down past it. So you'd have to like hammer them on or something, and it would be a giant pain. So better to just finish all the bracing for the corner at once and then come in and do wire and have it finished. You can see we got T-posts in. We did all the T-posts and all the corner braces and everything. That all went in with the post driver. And you'll see when we do some more, it makes pretty short work of it. Those T-posts, it pounds those in I think it's one stroke or two. And they're 8-footers, so they're 3.5 feet in the ground. And yes, I'm sure someone's going to say that that's overkill, and you're not wrong. That is overkill. But I always enjoy the idea that overkill is underrated, and I like overkill a lot. So I like the fact those posts are in the ground pretty deep. It's going to make it much harder for them to come out, especially out here, the kind of ground we have. Every time it gets dry and then it gets wet, the top, couple feet potentially even of the ground out here just opens up, and you have these massive cracks. So you'll always end up with those cracks opening up on your post. So it's nice to have the post deep enough that it should be deeper than those crack openings that open in the ground out here. So anyway, like I said, that's the piece of fence that I did to test. And we're gonna, of course, be going this way today. Yes, my tripod got in the shot there, so you can see the other camera that I use sometimes. Ha ha ha. But like I said, we're gonna go this way. We're gonna have a brace about halfway. It's about 1,000 feet between this end and the corner post that we're going to. So we'll have a brace about halfway. That'll take the barbed wire into two 500-foot sections. The brace in the middle will be what's called an NHN. So it'll be like this NH brace, but with another N. It'll be very similar to this actually, except that instead of being on an angle, it'll be straight. And that'll be the brace in the middle. And then the post at the other end will be just an HN like this, meant to hold an awful lot of tension. But I think it'll be fine. We'll get to work. We got a lot of posts to put in, a lot of stuff to do, and a lot of pipe to cut. So off we go. So this is our major piece of equipment for the day, our post driver. We're gonna be doing all of our vertical posts and our T-posts, assuming we get that far today, with this guy. So on the back of the tractor, I did make one small modification to this post driver. It comes with a bolt that you're meant to use like a set screw to adjust the height of these feet. And that's all nice and good, except that this thing is, driving with a 70,000-pound stroke, it claims. And the end result of that is it actually bent the bolt and made it so that I couldn't change the bolt, and the bolt just stripped, and it's a giant mess. So what I did instead is I drilled some holes in these, about every 1.5 inches or so, drilled a 5/8 hole right through it, and then I made a pin, used a category 0 top pin, and put some bushings on it that I cut to make sure that it stays there. Use that as my new bottom, so now when this thing sets down, it sits on that pin. And it's a lot easier for me to adjust. If I want to change the height in it, just pull the pin, stick it in the next one. I don't need to bring wrenches with me or anything like that out in the field, so that's kind of nice. So, liking that, that's been working pretty well since I made all that, all the holes drilled in it and stuff, so that's been pretty good. The other thing different from the last time I put corner posts in is this. This is known as a T-post adapter for the post driver. And it is. It's meant to be an adapter that fits inside the carriage here. And you put the top end of the T-post in there, and life is good, you pound it in. But also, the opening on it is just slightly larger than a piece of 2 3/8 steel pipe. The 2 3/8 steel pipe fits inside it nicely, and it keeps it centered in the carriage. So when you're driving it, you really do just have to line it up straight to start with. That'll keep it centered in the carriage, and you can just drive the thing in quickly and not, you know, keep messing with it constantly. You won't see me checking the level on this nearly as much as I did in a previous video when I was doing corner posts, because this thing keeps it in position. So, very nice. The reason I'm holding my little oil can here is, before you take this thing out each day, there's some guide blocks that have rollers on them that are here and here on each side that you're supposed to get some light oil on. So we're gonna do that, get that oiled up, and then we'll get some posts loaded up in the bucket of the tractor and go out and see if we can't put some vertical posts in the ground. So, hooray for oiling. All right, to get our fence going at this corner post, we need to get an end brace in on this side of the corner post. I know it's not on the same side as the fence that we're going to be putting in primarily today, but I like to get the corner posts and all the corner braces kind of done at once in one spot. So you're not trying to add them later, you're not trying to move them around each other and stuff. That's just a pain. So in order to do that, we're going to get an end brace on this post. In order to do that, we got to put another post right about here. With that in mind, in order to line them up, because I have this corner post and another corner post down at the other end of this section, we're going to use our string. We're going to wrap it around there, we'll take it down to the other end. That'll give us the position for our post here, and then we'll be done with this side as far as putting vertical posts in the ground for today. As far as this section goes, there's actually going to be a gate in about the middle of this section. So each section of fence over here is only going to be about 100 feet or so. So we're going to be fine with just ends on either end of those 100 feet sections. So we don't need, you know, NH ends or anything like that, anything complicated over here. So that should do just fine. We'll use the string, get it lined up, and go from there. All right, well that was fun. Yeah, my string that I started using was not long enough. Had to go find another piece of string and tie them together, and my ends came off a few times, and that was fun. So yes, that all happened, and yeah, that was great. Anyway, so post in the ground. The next thing that we got to do, we got to go down our line and we got to find our middle to know where our middle brace is going to be. And this line's about 1,000 feet long, and it will probably shock you to learn that I don't have a tape measure that goes to about 500 feet. Nor do I have one of those nice little wheels that measures distance. So, however, I do have a wheel that can measure distance, and this is it. Now, the great thing about this is I don't have to worry about what exactly the circumference of this tire is or any of that good stuff. All I need to do is know how many times roughly this tire goes around going from end to end on the fence, and then of course divide that number by 2, and come back that many to get to the middle. Now, is it going to be exact? No, it'll be off by, you know, foot or 2 or 3 in either direction, but who cares? No one cares. That won't matter, and the cows won't care. That's the important part. And so, in order to know how many times it goes around, we've tied this lovely piece of green fluorescent plastic around it so I can watch that from inside while I drive it, and we'll be able to count how many times it goes around and find our center. All right, well, the question of where the center of this span is has been answered right here. As far as that wheel, about 80 turns of the wheel from end to end. How things come out to a round number like that, I don't know, but I guess every once in a while you get lucky and things come out to a nice round number. So 40 turns back, here's our center. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this the center of our HN brace. Our HN brace is 4 verticals in the ground, and we're going to put one of those in, and then we'll run a string line to the other end so that we get a nice straight line for putting the rest in. And then we'll put the rest of those in, and we'll put the braces at the other end, and that'll be it for bracing, and then it's just a whole bunch of T-posts. So to get started, we're going to come 22 feet. The road is right over there, and the road is reasonably straight, even though it's dirt. But we're going to come 22 feet, I should say, off the center of the road, and that's going to give us our depth into the property this way. And we'll try to line it up with this as best we can, get our post in, and go from there. Well, there we go. 3 posts in the ground in, I think it probably took me a total of about 30 minutes or so. Not bad. You know, sure quicker than drilling and concreting and coming back tomorrow. So we're gonna go down to the other end, put 2 posts in down there, then we'll come and we'll measure all the crosses for the braces, and then we got some pipe cutting to do. So off we go. well, that wasn't too bad. Again, 2 more posts in pretty quick. Takes about 10 minutes a post, which really is just not terrible at all. So now we're going to do our measurements. So we got an N here, we got an H here, and there. We'll do our measurements for the pieces. We'll go down and do the measurements for the pieces in the middle, and then we'll get them all cut. We can get the braces up, and hopefully we'll have time to get the braces up and start getting some T-posts in today. Again, I never seem to actually match what I'd like to do in a day to an actual day, but we'll see how close we get today. All right, we got all our measurements. Now we're ready to do all of our cutting. We're gonna cut, we got 6 pieces total of braces to cut. And we got our chop saw out with our metal cutting blade in it and everything, so we're ready to go there. You will also notice I have changed clothes, pants, and the reason for that is really very simple. It may shock you to learn that I don't enjoy having hot metal thrown at my legs, and these pants, kind of heavy. They do the job of keeping the hot metal off me so I don't get the joy of feeling it. So that's kind of nice. So we'll get going, get our braces cut up, and get back to putting this thing together. Well, that was fun. 1 down, 5 to go. The other thing you'll see me do as I do this, I'll clean up the ends and then I'll be test fitting this thing to make sure that it goes over the end. This is the collar for the fence bullet system, and if that doesn't go over the end, we got big problems. And I've actually had 1 or 2 pieces already where either the pipe was flared or something was wrong and it wouldn't go over the end. So every time I do it now, I check just to make sure. The last thing you want to do is cut the pipe, get it all the way out there, and then find out that this doesn't go over the end, because that's just a giant pain in the rear. So anyway, off we go. 5 more. All right, so we got our pieces laid out on the ground for our cross braces. We got all this stuff for the kits for the bullet fence system, for doing an N, H, and an N. So let's get putting it together, and we'll talk about the pieces of the bullet fence system as we put it together. So the bullet fence system comes in kits. For example, this is an N brace kit, and there's an H brace kit, and there's also an HN, which we'll use at the other end over there. Each kit has a series, a couple carriage bolts, and some nuts that go over them. And what you do is, you start with these nuts, and you got to put 1 nut about 3/4 of the way down on each of the carriage bolts, like that. There we go, something like that. And the reason you do that is these compression collars, these are what go over the vertical pipes, and these go through, and then you'll hook the other bolt on the other side of it, like that. Tighten them up, and they'll stay on there. And then once they're on there, then we put the cross brace in, and when we put the cross brace in, that's where we'll use these guys. So we'll start off with the N on the corner, and we'll go from there. So we start with the bottom end of our N brace, get the collar put around the vertical, and sometimes you need a little persuasion to go around the vertical. So we're going to put this collar, we want it to be about 6 inches off the ground. You'll notice, yes, I'm not measuring, because if it's not perfectly 6 inches, it'll still be fine. But we're going to be about there. And we'll just get it around there and tighten it up. And I brought another wrench because sometimes these want to turn or not turn. And we're going to make it nice and tight because we really want it to stay on there. It's really just the compressive force of it that is holding it from moving or sliding on the vertical. So there we go, nice and tight. Now we'll get the one on the other end. And for this end, we're going to take our horizontal. I'm going to rest bottom end on the one that we just put on. And then the top end, we're going to see that may actually be in the right position. Let's see. Push it out just a little bit. Yeah, that's actually about right. That's a good spot for it right there. So that's it. We get this off. Drop that down. We'll tighten this up. And we'll be in good shape. Sometimes the bolt itself just insists on moving no matter what you do, and you need to just straighten it up a bit. And that socket's not quite deep enough for what we're doing here, so we're just going to switch to an open end wrench. Still got to keep holding that bolt because I need it to stay relatively straight-ish. Okay. Now, we'll get our horizontal piece in. Get our bullets over the ends of it. These are what they refer to as the fence bullets themselves. It's really just a collar that goes over either end of the brace. And these, you can see they're made for an N. They've got a little bit of a slope on one side of them. So we'll line those up properly with the ends, but we'll slide them over, put the brace piece in place, then put these on, then bolt them in, and then we're done with this brace. We'll move on to the next one. Slide them on. All right, slide these up like that. Bottom one. Sometimes wind up a little bit. Sometimes, for no apparent reason, they just bind up, but we'll get it on there. Enough. And we have these nuts that we put on. braces in place. I'm going to tighten that one completely because I want to put the nut on the bottom a little bit before I tighten that one all the way. That one's nice and tight. We'll do the same up here. All right, that's it. Now, the best part is, yeah, nothing. It won't move at all that way. So that's good. We're in good shape there. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna line up the end on the other side. I'm not gonna put it in super tight to start with. I'm just gonna sort of put it in a little bit so that it's in place. And then I'm gonna put the H on so that we can get that all lined up and in. It can be a little bit fun because once these are on, it does not want to move at all. So we'll get there. It's a little bit interesting. Let's do the end on the other end first. All right, so here we are. This is what we've done. Basically made a 45 cut about halfway on the end of the pipe, which hopefully will help us get over this a little easier. We're about to find out if this is going to work at all. So let me get the bullets on here and get it tested. So, yeah, that's a big no. Not gonna happen. So, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take it back up, and I'm gonna cut that 45 back a little bit more. And I may have to do this 2 or 3 times, which does not thrill me, but it's all right. It's only because this is so strong and does not move, which is good. It's what we want the fence to do. Although, to be honest, if I could have it move right now and then never move again, that would be okay too. But that doesn't seem to be an option. So we'll take it back, make another cut, and we'll try again. You big son of a... Huh. Look at that. That almost looks reasonable. Let me straighten this bolt out, and this might actually work. Amazing. Okay. That's what I'm talking about. All right. Get it bolted in. All right, here we are at our corner. We're gonna do an N, an H, and an N on here. And I would really like this to be over quickly. So I'm gonna try something. This will be the first time I'm ever giving this a shot, but we're gonna see how well the snap works. Here we go. And there it is. Our N, our H, and our N. All right, so that's it for our braces for our section. The next thing to do, we'll get the tractor out here. We're gonna load up the bucket with a whole bunch of T-posts, and we're gonna try to go down that line, put the T-posts in on this first half, since I've already got the string in place. We'll put them in along the string, and then once we get those T-posts in, we'll move the string down to the second half, put the T-posts in down there. And let's see, about 6 o'clock in the afternoon. I figure I've got maybe an hour, maybe 2 left to really work out here, so we'll see how far I get today. All right, well, here we are the next day. As you can see, it's nice and hot. I'm already a sweaty mess, but the good news is it's done. Well, okay, there's no barbed wire on it, but all the posts are in, all the T-posts are in all the way down, so that's great. You know, once again, do I ever get as much done in a day as I would like? No, but okay, a few hours the next morning, I can live with that. We'll be fine. So anyway, that's good. This is all in. We're gonna call it a day for this stuff. And in our next video, we're gonna take a look at putting barbed wire on it, how we stretch it, the tools we use for stretching it and hooking it up and all that good stuff. And then, once we get barbed wire on, we'll be able to call this section of fence done. And when this section of fence is done, we will be able to say that the entire fencing project is 1/8 complete. So, hooray for that.